Okay, we're back, and we're at item number 7, which is to receive the proposed town budget for fiscal year 2014-2015. First Selectman Mazza,
Thank you.
and going to be making a presentation.
I can still say good evening, right? It's not
I
morning.
think so, it's not quite morning yet.
We got a couple of slides, and we're going to make this brief as possible. We can make it as long as possible.
That's fine.
It's up to the board. Pretty much going to go through the transmittal letter that you all got last week.
Good, thank you for that.
Keeping legal with our town charter, so the budget was submitted on time to the board.
Yes.
But it's my pleasure to submit to the Board of Finance, the Board of Selectmen's budget for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2014, and ending June 30th, 2015. The total proposed 2015 town budget, which includes the general fund, capital budget, as well as debt service for both the town and Board of Education projects, totals $31,898,079, representing an increase of $1,019,981, or 3.30% from the 2014 adopted budget. The mission of the town government is to provide all town services except for education. Mainly public service, maintaining the infrastructure, keeping up the quality of life, and certainly fiscal responsibility, which this Board of Selectmen has demonstrated over the last few years by increasing its fund balance and having adopted budgets on the first ballot the last 4 years. The budget timeline that we have started way back in summer. We have a cooperation with the town department heads. We also started to look at our 5-year capital plan in November, and I thank Selectman Haverter for filling in for me in that month. Then we had our formal presentations to the Board of Selectmen in January by the department heads, and which you all were invited, and I think you all attended. There was a 2-day session. And then the Board of Selectmen went to work and made their reductions. The budget that was presented to the Board of Selectmen was an increase of $2,063,728, or 6.68%. The Board of Selectmen cut more than 50% of that increase by $1,043,747,000. Some of the areas that the Board of Selectmen did cut before presenting you this budget was capital of $458,300, workers' comp $72,000, legal $40,000, and debt service by $240,000. The major components of our budget are as follows, as you can see from the slide on the top there. Employee benefits, public safety, which is fire, police, communications, general government, which is all other services that are not listed there, which would be the town hall services, building, health, engineering, and then we have public works, which speaks for itself. You have culture and recreation, which includes the operations of our park and rec department, health and welfare, which is our social services. It's also our human services and youth and family services. And then you have capital improvements and equipment and operating transfers. The operating transfers at the fund, number one, the joint probate court with Madison. It also is the joint operation of the transfer station with Madison. And I think there are some other small items in there. Okay. I believe this budget successfully balances our objectives to maintain a fiscal responsibility and property tax stability, while providing the necessary resources to deliver essential town services and programs to protect the health and safety of our citizens and to maintain our capital assets. Our continued emphasis on improving the level of programs and services we offer, while concurrently working to improve the efficiency and cost-effectiveness of these services, has made it possible to present a prudent spending plan which I believe preserves the character of our community while supporting the goal of minimizing the tax burden on our citizens. The major objectives of this budget continue the multi-year strategy to build the general fund, capital budget to a level that would allow the town to pay for regular reoccurring capital projects on a pay-as-you-go basis, reserving bonding for more expensive construction or building projects. The pay-as-you-go concept gives the town the ability to better manage its debt service and to perhaps improve its bond rating, which will in turn provide long-term savings for our taxpayers. And an example of managing our debt services, the last November 2012, when we refinanced $18 million worth of bonds, saving $2.5 million of debt service. And this past December, we went out to short-term financing for $10 million for school and for town projects at a 1.6% interest rate, which is $16,000 on a $10 million loan. I'll take that any day. We continue to fund the contributions to both the town and pension police plans at the level recommended by the town's actuary, with the long-term goal of eliminating unfunded liabilities to significantly reduce our future pension obligations. Right now, if we make the anticipated contributions in this budget, the town's funded portion of the town pension will be almost 86%, leaving an unfunded portion of 14%, which is very good when you look at other municipalities. And the police pension would be at about 78%. Last year, these numbers were at 79.5 for the town and 70.14% for police. So with the approval of this board and the taxpayers, last year we funded to the full recommended level, and we're seeing the benefits of that now because our pension costs this budget, even though we're funding to the full recommended level, is $167,000 less than last year. Okay? So the strategy works. Okay? Increase the amount of funding for road maintenance, tree maintenance and removal, and weed control at Lake Quanapog, as well as providing meaningful programs and service enhancements. Okay? The new item this year is the Lake Quanapog issue. We have a big problem at Lake Quanapog with the growth of weeds. The short-term problem is to do the weed eradication, which is a $20,000 item in this budget. The long-term solution would be an engineering project, which we're hope to be getting help from the state. But $20,000 is a one-time shot on this. Increase legal funding to provide adequate support for labor negotiations and claims related to revaluation. We are in the first year of our new reval, and the chairman asked me before of what it was, how many claims we were getting. There's not as much as we had 5 years ago when we had our last reval, but we still have to provide for defending the assessments. And also we continue negotiations with our unions, and 2 of our unions were in arbitration, so it does add some legal costs to that. Mitigate increases related to rising medical costs and the expiration of salary grants by reducing other line items that will have minimal impact on our program services. You heard the Board of Ed talk about the medical costs, which they share with us. I don't think I need to go into that, but that increased our budget by $425,000 this year. The expiration of salary grants, I think this is important. This year, we do not have any more SAFER grant money available. Last year, we had $91,600 in 2 grants. One was the SAFER grant, the other one was the public health grant, which was administered by the Department of Homeland Security. Those grants are not available at this time. They may be, but at this time, they're not. Certainly, the SAFER grant is expired. Okay.
Right. And I think it's important to note, John, not to take you off track, the way we accounted for those SAFER grants, we actually debited that off the salary line item account. So
credited
we credited it off the salary line item account. So that salary line item for fire will be higher by that 91 million. It's not as if they got that as part of a general wage increase.
Yeah, 91,000.
91,000.
Yeah, okay.
Whatever.
Delusion's grandeur.
Yeah.
You want to send me back to Yale?
Yeah, exactly. But what I think it's important, the way we accounted for that, that's why the salary line item in the fire department will show a little higher
That's correct.
than normal percentage increase than is granted by contract.
As a matter of fact, our salary increases, without the grants, 2.23%. With the grants, about 2.995, I believe. Okay. We crafted the budget without the use of one-time revenues or transfer of fund balance. This is something we've done year after the last 4 years, and we continue not to rely on on a designated reserve. We've also explored alternate financing sources for projects and equipment and/or services to minimize tax increases without further reduction to an already lean budget. And what I mean by that is there were items in our capital budget that the Board of Selectmen took out of the operating budget, and we are hitting other funds for them, okay? The Pages Lane project, it's an $83,900 project. We are taxing the land acquisition fund with that amount. The Park and Rec Department wants a beach groomer, a field groomer. They got the beach groomer last year. A field groomer. We took that out of the operating budget, and we're charging their program accounts for that, to the tune of $24,000. There is over $225,000 of energy projects for the police station and for town hall, which, John, you'll like this because you ask it all the time, that we are taxing the $200,000 a year, the energy fund, which we've gotten $800,000 now over the last 2 referendums, bonding issues, okay? So we've taken it out of the operating and put it into these other funds. I'd like to talk a little bit about our grand list. As a result of the October 1st, 2013 revaluation, the net taxable grand list before Board of Assessment Appeals reduction is $3,047,649,750, which represents a decrease, I repeat, a decrease of over $447 million, or a 12.8% reduction from the 2012 grand list. Adjustments for potential Board of Assessment Appeal reductions and the elderly tax relief benefits will have further impact on this 2013 grand list. It's important to note that in a revaluation year, comparisons are difficult as the values change and do not show a complete story. We emphasize that a revaluation, and Matt, this is your term, is revenue neutral.
Exactly.
Okay, as it does not, in effect, generate any more taxes or any less revenue for the town. However, a total decrease in property values, like we have this year, will adjust the mill rate upwards. The current mill rate for 2014 is 23.06 mils. If we were to calculate the mill rate under the new grand list without adding anything,
With our current budget.
adding anything to the current budget, and you're just using the new assessed values, the mill rate would actually be 26.57 mils. Okay? But we won't collect a dime more of taxes. Okay? Local and intergovernmental revenues for 2015. Local revenues generated by the town clerk and building permit fees are estimated to increase by a total of $57,000, perhaps signaling an increase in market stability as the number of real estate transactions and building permit applications rise. And you can see that from your latest report, that the building fees continue to do well. A modest increase of $10,000 in the ambulance revenue, Chief agrees, okay, is also projected. The 2015 estimate for interest income is reduced by $25,000 as we do not expect interest rates to rise significantly. And you can see in the last couple of years, we've been always under in our interest revenue. Excuse me. State grants and intergovernmental revenues estimates are based on the February 7, 2014 governor's budget. The proposed midterm budget, we are presently budgeting a slight increase based on the assumptions that the temporary municipal aid adjustment will continue in 2015. I think the finance director talked about that before, and she gave her report. As the state budget session progresses, these estimates may be adjusted. State and local revenues as a percent of total budgets have declined over the years. If we were to go back from 2006 to the 15 budget, we're talking a 10-year period. At that time, 2006, the state revenue was about 7.5% of our revenue budget. We're projecting this year to be at 4.2%, and we've been declining steadily. So what does that mean for tax revenue? Tax revenue was at an 86.1 in 2006, and now we're looking at approximately a 93.1% of tax revenue. While the shift in tax burden continues to present a significant challenge to the Board of Selectmen, the 2015 budget has been carefully developed using innovative and cost-effective measures designed to support our goals and initiatives with minimal impact on the taxpayer. The operating component of our budget, net of capital and debt service, increased by 3.75%, or $988,000. The major driving factors, the overall increase in this budget, are limited to a few areas that represent contractual or fixed cost. First of all, I'm going to repeat before, like I said before, about medical benefits, and you heard the Board of Education say a lot about that. Contractual salaries increases, including reserves, are at $293,942. That number is the 2.23% I talked about. Legal fees are increasing by $120,000, and that is basically for our labor negotiations, and the bulk of that number really is the reval claims defense. The reduction in salary grants I talked about earlier is the $91,600. Fuel and utilities are up by almost $43,000, and other employee benefits about $30,000, and our insurance cost is up about $27,000, which includes LAP, which is liability, auto, and property, and workers' comp. In order to minimize the effects of these non-discretionary increases, and all other operating items were analyzed to determine if additional savings could be achieved either through budget reductions or by creating efficiencies. As a result, we were able to reduce line items a total of $200,000 to offset some of these increases. This savings allowed us to include in this budget a number of new initiatives and program enhancements that I believe are warranted and based on the needs of our citizens. Okay. You'll see some of them up on the screen, and they are also in your letter. We've increased money in summer and winter road maintenance, and you could see why we increased winter a little bit. But summer in particular, where there's more roads we want to get to and repair. The weed control I spoke about at Lake Quanapog. Tree maintenance removal, we increased that by $5,000, so now we're up to about a $55,000 line item, and that is vitally important to the town. The more that we can trim our dead trees or the trees that are no longer viable, the safer a community will be, and the less chance of power outages in conjunction with CLMP's tree trimming program. Major events in Park and Rec, I'd like to mention this. It's a $10,000 item. We're putting back the fireworks, okay? People have I don't know if you criticized, but have commented that we produced $1 million surplus last year. You can afford $10,000 for the fireworks instead of asking people to donate, and I agree. Okay, I think the gentleman who headed up that program the last 3 years did an outstanding job, but it's time for the town to take that over. Okay. Another item in here you'll see is the plan of conservation and development. This is required by the state. It's $25,000 item to finish up and write the report to be published and submitted to the state. Normally, a town would spend anywhere from $75,000 to $100,000 on this project. Because we have such great volunteers and had a tremendous committee, they did a terrific job in putting all the rudiments of the plan together, the raw materials of it. So now we have to get it professionally written, and that's what this $25,000 cost is for. Okay, that's a one-year item. You won't see this item for another 10 years. Okay. Okay, if we look at the operating and capital budget changes, if you look at our operating budget, excluding the debt service, you'll see that this year, this is the lowest increase in operating expenses over the last 5 years of 3.83%. Now, the reason we're down to 3.30, when you throw in the debt service, we have a reduction in debt service this year, and that'll bring that number down to 3.0. But you see, we've been as high as 6.94% in the year 2013, and now we're down to 3.83 on this one. Okay. The operating budget for 2015 includes contractual increases for those bargaining units with contracts that extend through June 30th, 2015. The police officers, the dispatchers, and supervisors, and the Town of Guilford employees, or the GEA, all have contracts that are currently being negotiated, and hence that increase in the legal budget. The gross salary increase for 2015, like I said before, is 2.23% greater than the 2014 budget. The overall budget increase in salary accounts is 2.95, and that, again, I'll repeat this because it's important, is due to the reduction of the two salary grants of $91,600, okay? Measurable progress has been made reducing personnel costs through excessive bargaining, reduction or consolidating positions where appropriate to create cost savings, and filling vacant positions at lower rates. We've been very successful to filling our positions that become vacant at lower rates than those positions were paying. Now, at this point, it should disclose that we have added a half a person to this budget. The Public Works Department had requested one. We've cut that to a half. How do you get a half? Instead of starting in July, he starts in January. That's a half a person. It's a small step to mitigate the increase in cost, but we did it. And that's the only increase. Okay? So we're still down 12 and a half full-time positions, equivalents, okay? And I think you can tell by the weather we've been having and the amount of money we want to put into road projects that this additional maintainer, and that's the position, is required. I'd like to talk a little bit about our capital budget. As I mentioned earlier, the restoration of the general fund capital budget was a major initiative of the Board of Selectmen. In 2015, the budget has increased by $51,000 to $856,300. You can see from the bar graph right there that we continue to build up that fund, that department, to lessen the effect on our borrowing or debt service. We have integrated future general fund capital expenditures into the 5-year capital plan, which I think you all received a copy of, and I know some of you were there at that hearing, and have identified these projects separately on a separate book we presented to you. Okay. While the town has done an adequate job of maintaining its infrastructure and equipment, it is critical that we continue to support these assets by increasing our capital budget. By recognizing the benefits of a pay-as-you-go financial model, the town will benefit from a more stable funding source with the ability to replace equipment on a timely basis while avoiding crisis situation inherent with aging equipment. In prior storms, we always had a couple of breakdowns of our old equipment. That's not happening any longer. The town would reduce its reliance on long-term debt and better manage its debt. That in turn may potentially improve our bond rating and generate long-term savings to the taxpayer by funding more from the operating budget versus debt service. An updated 5-year capital plan covering fiscal years 2015 through 2019 was adopted by the Board of Selectmen on February 4th, 2014, reaffirming their commitment to the importance of planning for the town's future capital needs. The CIP also serves as a management tool to ensure that adequate resources are available each year to meet the capital needs of the town without overburdening the operating budget. As you recall, the bond authorizations and appropriation ordinance covering the projects for fiscal year 2012-2013, that was years 1 and 2 of the CIP, were approved at referendum in April 2011, and the projects for fiscal years 2014-2015, years 3 and 4, were approved in the April 2013 referendum, which was last year. That being said, the Board of Selectmen will not, and I underline, will not be presenting a bonding package this year with the budget. Based on the assumptions that the Board of Finance approved the Board of Selectmen's budget and the Board of Education budget as presented with no material adjustment to the revenue budget, either as a result of reductions to state aid or actions taken by the Board of Assessment Appeals, the mill rate will be adjusted accordingly to reflect the changes in the real estate values. With the support of our department heads and our commissions, we continue to work to develop efficiencies in our operations and to find innovative ways to lower costs wherever possible. This budget is now at a level where future reductions would be detrimental to our ability to retain the quality of the essential services, programs, and facilities our residents expect. The Board of Selectmen believes that this budget provides a high level of service to our residents and is a fiscally responsible manner. This has been accomplished despite our increasing obligations and declining non-tax revenue. The budget provides the level of service that our community expects and requires. As we work to address the operational issues that continue to challenge us, we will do so in a way that pledges sensitivity to our residents who are facing their own challenges. I wish to thank the entire members of the Board of Selectmen, the members of the Board of Finance, as well as the staff of the Selectmen's Office and Finance Department, and all our department heads and commissioners who have worked cooperatively and diligently in preparation of this budget. And I'll take any questions.
Question? John?
Okay, I hate to keep everyone here a little longer.
Oh, don't worry
but,
about
I got a question about pay-as-you-go, which I believe I'm a fan of. I just wanted to make sure I understand this fairly well. This would help improve our ratio of debt compared to the overall budget?
Sure. I mean, if we were to bond that, say, $500,000 of that, okay, not the entire, certainly our debt ratio would increase.
Now, the question I have, though, is it's the road to kind of get to the pay-as-you-go model requires adding to the operating budget cost to pay for things as they come up, right?
That's true.
So it's a little bit painful. So I'm just kind of wondering, when do we kind of get there? And is there sort of a measure that when we're paying for every 5-year or 7-year?
Well, I think you're
item?
never going to get to a point where you could fund a major project in the operating budget. You're always going to have bonding. Okay, now I'm going to give you a ridiculous example.
Okay.
We couldn't fund the high school through the
Right.
operating budget.
Right.
Okay, it has to be a major bonding issue. But the request for capital spending out of the operating budget for 2015 that came in from the department heads was $1.3 million. Okay. We had to trim that back because it wouldn't be a number that would be acceptable to you guys. So what we did, instead of pushing any of that off to bonding, we pushed a couple of items, small items, into next year, because the beauty of the 5-year plan is that I can see, and that's all this I can see, and so can you, 5 years of what our operating hit is going to be. When I looked at 2016, it's the almost half of where we are for 2050. So we moved a couple of projects that were not necessarily needed in the budget year we're talking about, but could go out one more year, okay? Now, the projects that we couldn't hold up on, we used other funds for, okay? And you have been one who's been arguing for this for a couple of years now. Am I right?
Yes.
Okay? You have been arguing that why don't we use our special funds? And this budget addresses that, particularly when we look at the Pages Lane project, we looked at the ball field groomer, and I think one of your favorite comments is about the energy fund,
Yeah.
okay? So,
It's good to see the money get to work.
there you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess I have a question about refinancing. Is it possible that there may be some additional refinancing in our future? Or is that
Not in our immediate
kind of
future, no.
taking its course
Yep.
and that was the
Yep.
savings we were able to achieve?
Believe me, in this interest market, we'd love to refinance if we could. You could see how it happened last year,
It was fantastic.
what that benefit was, yeah.
Another question is the summer road maintenance. I think Chip Portley has indicated each year that it's a bit underfunded, and you're addressing that to some degree
Yep.
this year. But I wonder, when does that get funded too? Like pay as you go, when are
It's in here.
you sort of at a level where
It's
you have
in-
enough
it's-
summer road maintenance to
It's-
hold the
it's-
line?
It's in the engineering budget. There's nothing bonded for this year in summer road maintenance. Okay, now, let me be fair. Summer road maintenance is a little bit different than major road reconstruction, okay? Major road reconstruction was put into last year's bonding allocation, and that was to raise the level of 3 shoreline roads. We're talking $1 million, okay? That is not in this budget. When we say, summer road maintenance, it's basically overlays, chip seal, shim and level, that type of thing.
I just wonder when we get to the point where we're sort of on a cycle to refurbish the roads,
Well,
on a time period, like every 7 years or every 10 or
when
whatever.
we had less roads and more money, we would do it every seven years, all right? Now we're on roughly about every 10. Yeah.
Man, I do have a question.
Lou?
Thank you for the presentation, very helpful.
Thank you.
Now, there's about $120,000 increase in legal expense.
Yep.
And you did explain that a good portion of that is related to the assessment appeals, which we are facing this year. Just what information did you rely on to come up with the estimate for that budget item?
The finance director, and she can comment if she likes, finance director did an analysis of the last reval, which was 5 years ago. And we have been defending that reval. I think we have one case left. Okay, it goes on for years, okay? We looked at what the initial appeals were, and like I mentioned earlier in the meeting, very early in the meeting, the appeals that were addressed by the reval company are half what they were 5 years ago. And you got to expect that when everybody's property values, not everybody, when property values have decreased 12.8%, the opposition
Yeah.
to those values, unless you're going to sell your house. The opposition to those values tend to be less than when the values went up.
There's a reasonable argument that can be made that year two, we will see a spike in,
Yeah.
because people will have figured out the reduction does not mean a tax reduction because of the offset on the mill rate. So I think there's a reasonable expectation that year two, next year, which would be FY '16 budget, would probably need to reserve more than we did for year two of the last cycle.
But if you're comparing year
Still-
one budget and then year two budget,
Budget.
you shouldn't see a significant increase. You might see the same amount,
Yeah.
or maybe a little bit more.
Yeah.
But not a.
You're not
Not
gonna
an
see
increase, right.
another 120,000.
Right.
This is
Yeah.
120,000 additional.
This year for that.
Plus, there's the contract negotiations you mentioned. and-
Yeah, that the 120 increase is not all the assessment appeal, that's about 90,000.
Just a quick point of clarification, because you read it into the record. Well, I don't know if you read it into the record, but I was reading it while you did. The grand list drop of 12.8%, I think, was noted here.
Yeah,
That is not the final number.
that's correct.
The final number is somewhere around 13.22 because of the offsets that we need to make, the adjustments we need to make for the various tax relief programs, correct?
Yep.
Any other programs that go into that?
It is the elderly tax relief
Relief,
program,
right.
the grants that we receive for elderly tax relief from the state.
State, right.
And any potential Board of Assessment appeal reductions
Reductions, right.
and court appeals.
Right.
And certificates of corrections.
So for the purposes of analysis, as we go through this budget development, and I'm not going to put the mill rate number out there right now, we're assuming about a 13.22% drop in the grand list, which is used to determine how much we need to raise in taxes.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, the 12.8 is, you're right, it's not your number.
It's not,
But
it's not our
I
final
believe
number.
I did mention that in
Yep,
it.
you did, just wanted to make sure it was
Yep.
stated again. All right, any other questions of John? No? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well done,
Thank you.
well done.
Thank you, Sheila.
Yep, thank you, Sheila.
Now, we're meeting again on the 4th, right?
Yeah, we are. We get to do this all over again. But this time, hopefully, in front of a larger audience. No offense to the audience that is here. Item 8, committee reports. Report on Guilford High School Building Committee, anything?
Yeah, I'll give you a very quick one because it's late. Just some status. Building foundation, the excavation and backfill is basically complete. They're about 12% into the project as far as construction expenditures. Structural steel is 60%. Floor slab placements are going to should be beginning by now. It's supposed to be beginning in February. The baseball field retaining wall and precast dugouts have been placed, so that's just about complete, getting ready for the spring season.
Okay.
The project remains on budget, including the rate of contingency that they are using. Regarding the black box, I found out that they presented the design documents of the black box last week. They are being costed now, and at the next building committee meeting on Tuesday, the 25th, the building committee will be discussing those costs and deciding whether to move it forward. That's it.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 9, 9.1, remove from the table and take action to set cap for the aggregate benefit under section E-2 of the Elderly Tax Relief Program Ordinance. Is there a motion to remove from the table?
So moved.
Second? Second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained, none. The Finance Director, in consultation with the assessor, the town's assessor, is recommending that we set the aggregate benefit at $1,350,000. That's an increase of approximately $200,000 from fiscal year 2014, which we're currently in. And that 1.35 has been used in the calculation of the adjusted grand list that you have before you in your packet. Just as a way of a little history, in fiscal year 2013, we had set the cap at $1,050,000. And we paid out benefits of $985,000, or roughly 94% of the cap that we set. Last year, as I mentioned, it was $1,150,000. We paid out benefits of $1,059,000, which represented about 92% of the cap. And again, based on the recommendation of the assessor and the finance officer, we'd like to set it, I'd like to entertain a motion to set it at $1.35 million.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Questions, comments? None? Call the question, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained? Thank you.
Abstain.
One abstention. Item 10, new business. Item 11, public forum. Anyone wishing to address the board in public forum? You've waited this long. Amazing. You've outlasted us. Come on up, and just for the record, state your name and address. You've done this at the Board of Education, I suspect?
This is becoming my thing. Claire Kincaid Dunn, 895 Maple Hill Road. I'm here speaking on behalf of parents, grandparents, residents of Guilford. We've already gathered a group of 400-plus supporters that will be coming to the poll to support a budget with full-day kindergarten, and we will be lobbying you guys next coming weeks as the referendum comes closer to have you join your colleagues of the Board of Ed to unanimously vote on a budget with full-day kindergarten. So, thank you for taking your time tonight, and you're going to see a lot of me.
Sorry to make you wait so long. Most of our meetings aren't quite this long.
I've been cooped up in my house with snow, so I'm
If this is your idea of a fun night out, we need to talk. All right. Before I entertain a motion to adjourn, just for those in the viewing audience, and reminder to all my colleagues, on March 4th, the board will hold its annual public hearing on the budget estimates. This is an opportunity where the residents will get another look at the budget presentations that were so ably presented this evening, as well as have an opportunity to ask direct questions of the Board of Education and the Board of Selectmen relative to the spending plans and estimates and the rationale that went into them. They will also have the opportunity to voice their opinion at that meeting as to where they stand, what they think should be included, deleted, changed, et cetera. So that is an opportunity for public input, which this board particularly relishes as we move forward to our March 6th meeting, which is a Board of Finance workshop, where we will attempt to come to agreement on a budget to send to referendum. If necessary, we'll have a second workshop meeting on March 10th. All those meetings are here at the community center, and they all start at 7:30. So with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Second. All in favor? Aye. No abstentions on that one.
No, ready to go.
Thank you all.